Let's now reach out to Bernie Farber. He is the chair of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network in Canada. Bernie, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Michael.
Listen, I want to begin with your thoughts. As someone who grew up in Ottawa, as someone whose father was a Holocaust survivor, when you hear about swastikas being painted onto Parliament Hill, being used to deface property around the nation's capital, what goes through your mind?
Well, it's absolutely frightening. I think you have to remember that it's not just me, but there are many of my friends and family and others in the Jewish community and in the community of color and other minority groups, but specifically those groups that have been targeted by Nazis and neo-Nazis in this country. You see swastikas and Confederate flags, but specifically swastika flags on Parliament Hill, walking down residential streets, as the councillor just noted. I mean, it does fill you with apprehension, it fills you with fear, it fills you with concern. And as a child of Holocaust survivor, I understand it, but I actually think most Canadians get this. And it's not just a few malcontents. Or a couple flags. This so-called convoy actually seeded the ground, in my opinion, for the worst display of Nazi and racist propaganda that I have ever seen in this country. And I've been to lots of protests, and many more such as these, going back to the late 1960s to this very day. And honestly, I have never, ever seen anything like this.
You say seeded the ground, but as I said to Councillor McKenney, there are people who support this protest because it began as a demonstration against cross-border vaccine mandates, and now have people joining because they are not extremists, but they don't want the government to dictate what they should or should not do. What do you say to those people who don't see themselves as doing any kind of harm, but who have stepped forward to show their support?
I think that they have to understand that they are marching in the shoes of neo-Nazis. They are giving support and succor to racists and bigots and bullies. I understand that people can have different views on health concerns and on vaccinations. I don't agree with them, not at all, but they have the democratic right to come and do that. Unfortunately, the extremists have either taken over the agenda or actually helped develop the agenda. We don't really know yet. We do know what we've seen with our own eyes, and we do know that we have seen a statue of Terry Fox basically defaced. We've seen people urinate on the war memorial. I mean, the list goes on and on. What have they accomplished? They've accomplished nothing more than angering Canadians, the vast majority of whom are supportive of national vaccine mandates. And so, yes, let them come and protest the actual health issues, but they have to understand that by doing so, they have actually walked in the shoes of bullies, racists, bigots, and Nazis.
Well, I want to add some numbers to what you just said, because more than 82% of Canadians ages 5 and up are fully vaccinated now. 90% of truckers, we are told, are also fully vaccinated. So the vast majority have already had those vaccines, as you say. But I also wonder about the political engagement here. Are politicians addressing your concerns right now? Are they contributing to the problem right now?
Well, I've heard comments from Ontario Liberal leader Steve Del Duca. I've heard Minister El Gabra. I do want to hear more strongly from the Prime Minister. I am very disappointed that the leader of the opposition, Aaron O'Toole, has deemed it appropriate to actually meet with these people and have a discussion with them. That as well gives support to the extremists in that crowd. So I think that my late father, who was himself, as you noted, a Holocaust survivor, the sole Jewish survivor of his small town in Poland, he used to say to me that if you want to get something done, you have to open a mouth. And I'm suggesting that ordinary Canadians, but most importantly, political leaders, they have to open a mouth. This is a time to say, enough is enough. We're not going to have the streets of Ottawa festooned with swastikas. We're not going to have these malcontents urinating on the war memorial. We're not going to have them destroy our figures, our heroes like Terry Fox. It's absolutely unconscionable.
Bernie Farber, I want to thank you for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
And Bernie Farber is the chair of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network.